Hi guys, so I wanted to put together a video for the one of the new features that's going to be available in beta 10. It's quite a powerful new addition, so yeah, let's basically get started. One thing I wanted to show, and I'll probably show this again in a few of the other videos and keep repeating it because it's a really useful feature, and I don't think that everyone's picked up on it yet, is that one of the things that you can do when you're doing spec modifications is that you can use the fast navigation features that are built in to the into the software. So rather than clicking on the settings button, which will just open up the settings screen and drop you at the base of all the trees, I mean that's useful if you're wanting to go specifically to something that's non-specification related. If you're doing spec mods and working in that area, or making configuration changes to the dome, the best thing to do, or the best way to do it, is to hold down the shift key and then just click on whatever item it is on the dome that you want to configure or change. So for an example, this volume profile here, if I just shift and click that, it will open up the settings screen, and it, rather than sitting at the top there, it takes me directly to the column in question, which is inside of the main grid on the grade tree spec, and it's the last column. So from there, I essentially drop it down, and I've got my indicators available. Um, in this particular vid, ignore these numbers. I've got it set on my dev build, so it shows me all the keys, but don't worry about that for now. So essentially, yeah, easiest way to move to things, you want to look at the price ladder, shift click, you see it's there on the price ladder, and that works for absolutely everything on the dome. If you want to configure this button, shift click, drops you into that button on the toolbar. Anything practically, you can shift click it and it'll take you directly to those settings. So yeah, so the thing that I wanted to show today is essentially the session maps, which are now new in beta 10. And the way that you access a session map is you go into your settings. I'm not going to use a shift click because we're going to have to set up a session map first of all. Now there's a new node option here on the base part of the tree called session maps. And initially there's no session maps defined, so you need to define your own session maps. Now what a session map is, it's essentially one of the things with Ninja, which I always found a little bit of an issue, was with charts. If you want to override a session, you go into your chart, you go into the session override setting. I'll open it up here quickly. So on the chart, and now if I want to override ES's session, I come here to session template, and I can now change this to a different session, whatever you want, so CFD ESP. Now the trouble with that is that when I change now to a different instrument, it's gonna maintain that that template on there, and it's not always the case that the override is fits the new instrument that you're moving to. Now, in the past, to get over that with my own charts, usually I had a bunch of different charts set up for each instrument, and it wasn't that often that I actually navigated or changed from one instrument to the other on the same chart. Primarily because it takes a little bit of time to load. I mean, this one's quite quick; it's a small chart, but another one it takes a while. Now, with the dome, that's not the case, because with the dome, it's set up for very fast access to access all your different instruments, and you want to be able to, quickly navigate between multiple instruments on the dome. And obviously, with that sort of restriction, it's going to be a problem because you're going to have these session overrides that don't apply to half the instruments. So what I've done is I've created something called a session map, and we'll set one up, and then I think you'll see pretty quickly how that works. So what we do, we highlight session maps, and you're going to click the add button, and as with other things, it drops down with a new and map one. So we have to give it a name, and then we have to define it. So what we'll do is we'll set up a session that's going to be specifically for, let's just call it regular trading hours. And then let's set up a second session map, and we'll call that extended trading hours. Right, so what we're going to do now is in the session map, what I've done is, because I don't want to maintain, I don't want to start proliferating Ninja's master data by having us creating our own in here. So you don't have to create any instruments or anything. Essentially, it's point and click, keeping with that simple function or simple interface. So what you do is to get the instruments that you want to work with, you use the instrument list. And the instrument list is that same list that's on your NinjaTrader Instrument Manager. So if we open Instrument Manager, these instrument lists, yeah. So if default is it's specified over there. It's going to drop down all the instruments that belong to default. If you change that to Dow 30 or NASDAQ or whatnot. So change it to default. You've got these instruments set up here now. So by default, they're all set to default, meaning there's basically no override set in the map at all. And if it's at default, the system will just ignore it, and essentially there won't be any override set. What we're going to do is in our regular trading hours map, we're going to set up ES to have CME, the CME US index futures, regular trading hours, and then we're going to go to our extended trading hours, and we're going to set up ES in the extended trading hours. We're going to set up CME US index futures ETH for extended trading hours. Now, I'm just doing this for one instrument to show, but the way it's set up, it's set up so that you can specify multiple overrides within one instrument map. So, for instance, regular trading hours, I've set up ES. Now, if there's another instrument that has regular trading hours and outside trading hours, like YM or whatever, you can go and set that, to a regular RTH or RTH. So you basically build your whole map as a bunch of instrument overrides. And what that does is that now when you apply this map to a particular indicator and you go to the DOM, and when you change the DOM between instruments, it will know that there's a map currently applied to the indicator, and it will then check the map to see does an override exist for the particular instrument that I've changed to, and it will automatically use the correct override that you've set. And that gets around that issue of being stuck with one override on the front end and it not applying to the other instruments. So it's really configurable and quite tidy in that aspect. So what we're going to do, we've set up a regular trading hours, we've set up an extended trading hours. Now we need to apply it to one of our indicators. So we're going to apply it to the session profile. Let's apply it to ES. Now I've shift clicked on there, it's brought me to the column, drop it down, and I'm looking at the volume profile indicator. Go to type properties, and there's a new parameter here under data, and that parameter will be available for anything that a session map is, makes sense to have a session map for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to regular trading hours. And you'll see immediately as I change the session map, that volume profile is now based on the ETH session. So just to show you that is working correctly, what I'm going to do is bring up the old 1LDOM chart. And you see here, the 1LDOM chart is actually set to the ETH session. If I go to the data series, and you see here, CME US Index Futures RTH, so that's the regular trading hours. And there you see the vol profile is set. So I'm going to do something else, which is actually to show you that the session map is based on an indicator. So you can actually have multiple sessions, session maps within the same book. For instance, when the high and lows indicator comes, which is the next thing coming, you can base the high and lows indicator on a particular session. So you could, on the same book, have multiple highs and lows set up for different sessions. Like you could have your regular trading hours highs and lows, as well as your outside hours highs and lows set. But just to show that concept, so I've added a second column. Well, I didn't add it, I copied, sorry, so it's automatically copy the attribute to the first column. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to change the session map on the second column to use extended trading hours. So you see there we can you can see that it's now using that. All right, so and then the other thing is, of course, the spec is applied to all three of these domes, so all three change. And what you're seeing on the other two instruments is that there's no change between the two. And the reason for that is that in our session maps, we haven't set up an override for FDAX or FGBL. So you see that we left them on default. So both session maps have got no override. So as far as the vol profiles are concerned on these particular instruments, there aren't any overrides in either of the maps. So it's just using the default session for each. So that shows that. And then what I was showing you before was that if we open up 1LDOM, so you can see there it's got that profile for the regular trading session hours. And if we just change this to, we'll set this to ETH, the chart's just going to recalculate, and then we'll get our There we go. There's our extended trading hours. So you see there's the profile for extended trading hours. So yeah, I don't want this video to get on too long, guys, so I'm going to finish up there. Thanks for watching.